So in class, we started describing this whole idea of World War One as this really tense situation called a powder keg and a spark. And so here's a few of the things we're looking at in class. Well, in class actually tomorrow on Tuesday, in preparation for Wednesday. One of the big things we see happening in Europe is this idea of nationalism. Okay, nationalist idea of this pride in your ethnic group is what it is. So all these different ethnic groups want to have belief in themselves. The belief in being, if you're a Serb, the belief in being Serbian. If you're a Frenchman, the belief in being a Frenchman. If you're a German, the belief in being a German. And you kind of see this map here, all these different little groups that are out here. And these little different groups are all in different political countries. The difference between, being an ethnic group and being in a political country. You can be an ethnic group in many different countries. You see down here, these are the white borders here. This is big Austria-Hungary. This big white border I'm kind of trying to trace out here. All these different groups of people live inside this one country, especially the idea of Serbia. Now, Serbia had received its independence from Austria-Hungary, little Serbia right down here, but there's still a whole bunch of Serbs that live in Austria-Hungary. Other groups, like Poles, live up here in parts of Germany. Slovaks here in Austria-Hungary. All these different groups want to have their freedom. What it comes down to, they want to be their own country. Kind of the idea that you can be your own country is the idea of nationalism. You have rivalries. European powers want to be the best. And all these different countries have wanted to achieve more land. And one of the biggest rivalries out there is between France and Germany. Now, France and Germany have fought against this little piece of land here called Alsace-Lorraine, a little piece of land between France and Germany. They fought different wars over it, including what's called the Franco-Prussian War. And so we kind of see these countries that want to be the best, want to acquire the most land, and so rivalries end up playing a big role in Europe too, and its underlying causes of World War One. You also have this arms race, better known as militarism. The idea that you can solve all your problems with a big old army, and you basically see all these countries building big old armies. As part of the Industrial Revolution in France and Germany and Britain was creation of new weapons. Okay, bigger cannons, bigger guns. And the big new weapon at the time, the A-bomb of its time, you will, the cruise missile, the drone of its time, was the dreadnought. Ladies and gentlemen, this right here is a dreadnought. A dreadnought is a really, really big ship. A huge naval vessel, huge battleship with big, big guns. These guns had shells that were up to anywhere from 12 to 16 inches across. These shells weighed a ton. These shells weighed they weighed the amount of a car. It could be thrown over a mile full of explosives. And so these were the new vessels. And Britain started building them, then Germany started building them, everybody started building these big ships, creating bigger guns and bigger armies. Now, part of national, this is all whole part of national. The bigger army you have, the more proud your army, and it's kind of that, you rah rah, we're awesome kind of thing going on here. The only thing to remember is that when governments build an army, they might want to play with them a little bit. It's almost like a little kid who wants to play with his toys on Christmas, that you need those things. And so we kind of see this idea of militarism rise in Europe as well. We talked before, we have imperialism as well. European countries and U.S. as well, we're carving up different parts of Africa and Asia all over the place, and we're competing. And two of the countries that control the most lands, you can see from the map here, is France, controls most of Western Africa, and Great Britain controls most of Eastern Africa. Other little countries like Germany and Austria-Hungary wanted more colonies. Germany barely had any colonies. They had two little colonies. Austria-Hungary had no colonies whatsoever. And so these two places want to get more colonies. Austria-Hungary really want to acquire parts of land over here from the Ottoman Empire, and they really want to add into the imperialism movement. Now, the other last part of this is alliance. We talked about this in class a little bit, looking at the epic rap battle in class, and the idea of alliances. Now, we see two big alliances develop. First, you see Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy kind of back each other up, along with the Ottoman Empire later on as well. And that's going to be the Triple Alliance or the Central Powers. You also have the Triple Entente, which is going to be Russia and Great Britain and France. Now Russia is backed up with Serbia, so little Serbia is down here as well, and Russia is backed up there also. Now obviously the way this gets into it is that if one or two of these countries start fighting, they all start fighting. And so we're going to see how this is going to end up blowing up to become a big deal. Now, basically we see the entire area primed for war. It's like that big old powder keg I described in class, and the thing you don't want to put next to it is a spark. And what happens is a spark. Our spark comes in little country of Serbia. Serbia is right down here. Okay, you see a little pink country right there, Serbia. And it received this independence in the early 1900s. And a lot of these ethnic Serbs still live over the border here in Austria-Hungary, and mostly in a city around a city called Sarajevo. And a lot of those Serbs want independence to become part of their own country. So they, we're Serbian, not Austrian. We should live in Austria. And so you actually see almost like a nationalist terrorist group form called the Black Hand. And these groups formed. They wanted to get, encourage Austria and give people their freedom. Well, Austria-Hungary has this really big army, very well trained, and it's one of the largest armies in Europe actually. And they use it to keep everybody under control, almost like a military dictatorship to keep all the different people under control here. So the Black Hand was this group of Serbian nationalist terrorists. They were state sponsored, they were backed by the state, and they basically wanted Serbian land free from Austria-Hungary. They're young kids, 16, 17, 18 years old. The oldest one I think was like 28, give or take. A lot of them were very young, college educated. And one of the leaders was this guy right here, again, Gavrilo Princip. A lot of these guys had tuberculosis. Tuberculosis is an infection of the lungs. This time, tuberculosis was basically fatal. And so they want to send a message to Austria-Hungary that they're not going to be messed with, that, they mean business. And the way of sending this message is by assassinating Archduke Franz Ferdinand. Now, he is the heir to the throne. He was visiting the capital of Sarajevo, which is in Austria-Hungary, capital of Serbia, the Serbian section of Austria-Hungary, and he was there to, visit and review troops, all those kind of things. And so he brings his wife Sophie along. Now, the thing about Sophie is that his wife Sophie was a commoner, so she was not usually allowed to travel with Franz Ferdinand. It was like a special present for her, basically. She was also pregnant with their first child, third child. And so the Black Hand decided we're going to try and assassinate Ferdinand as a way to send a message that we need to get our freedom. Well, basically, this whole line of assassins, and they have bombs, those kind of things, and they've set up this, to assassinate the Archduke around this parade route. So one of the first guys has a bomb. He throws a bomb at the car, bounces off the back of the car, blows up, doesn't do any damage to the car at all. This guy, all these assassins have cyanide, poison to take after they commit their deed. This guy takes the cyanide, jumps off a bridge into the river. Well, the cyanide he has is really old, just makes him puke and doesn't kill him. And the river he jumps into is about 4 inches deep. So they actually arrest this guy and take him away. Were the first Black Hand assassins. Now, after that, other assassins tried to take over as well. They got most of them wuss out, and the whole Archduke passes through, no shots are fired. Now, later on, the Archduke plans to go visit the hospital where the injured soldiers are from the first bomb. Well, all of a sudden, the car takes a wrong turn. Here, Gavrilo Princip is leaving a deli where he got a cup of coffee, and he's like, oh, there's Franz Ferdinand. Princip pulls out his gun, the gears on the car jam, and Princip fires off 2 shots. One strikes Franz Ferdinand in the throat, the other one strikes Sophie. They both die, and things start up. Now, Princip tries to take the cyanide, tries to shoot himself. The police arrest him. He's thrown in jail because he's actually under the age where you can be sentenced to death. So he actually spends all of World War I in prison, where he eventually dies of tuberculosis. Now, after some time of kind of fighting back and forth, some posturing, Austria-Hungary decides to declare war on Serbia because of the assassination. Now, so you have Austria-Hungary declaring war on Serbia. Russia is an ally with Serbia because they're both related in terms of their Slavic heritage. So Russia backs up Serbia. Germany writes this quote-unquote blank check to Austria-Hungary. They basically say, listen, whatever you need, we're going to back you guys up. And so Germany backs up Austria-Hungary and declares war on Serbia as well as Russia. France has a deal with Russia. And so they decide we're going to declare war on everybody else because Russia is in there too. Later on, Great Britain joins in. Ottoman Empire joins Germany, Austria-Hungary, and the war is basically set. Great Britain doesn't join in later on until later on when Germany invades through Belgium. But they basically sign up on terms of the Triple Entente. So you basically have the war set where you have the Central Powers in the middle, Germany, Austria-Hungary, Ottoman Empire. And over here you have Russia, France, and Great Britain. And so you start seeing the attack in 1914. Now, the big plan Germany had for this whole deal was something called the Schlieffen Plan. It was designed by one of the generals, Schlieffen, in 1905. And the basic idea is that you're fighting a two-front war. You have Russia on one side, huge army, You have France on this side, pretty good army, and Great Britain as well. The idea is you rush as fast as you can, take over France, get your soldiers back to fight against Russia. Things that Russia was very antiquated. They had a lot of horses, yet not a lot of trains. It'd take a long time for Russia to get all their troops on the German border. So what they first hear is that France and Britain decided to mass their troops on the German border. They mass their troops right here because obviously there are rules to war, and you can't go through neutral land. Belgium at this time, the other country that borders France, is neutral. Well, here's what they do. Germany decides to cut right through Belgium, kind of an end-around play, and go right this way, right around where all the massed troops are, and actually push themselves within 30 miles of Paris. Now, when they're going through Belgium, which is kind of a big no-no because Belgium wasn't involved in the war, they're accused of committing a lot of atrocities. You see the poster that says "Remember Belgium" and lists today as a British poster about burning down cities and those kind of things. There are accusations of rape and that kind of stuff happening by the German troops in Belgium. Well, the French-British troops able to stop the German attack at a place called the Marne River, and basically had this stalemate set on the Western Front here. And on the Western Front, we have this trench warfare. Both sides dig these trenches both for safety and attack. These trenches are 8 to 10 feet deep across the entire front and stretch for miles. We're talking. In fact, there's a lot of Chinese and Japanese people dug the trenches on the Western Front. You can see from the diagram here, you usually had a series of trenches. So you had a front trench, which was right on the border, and you had a series of trenches going back and dugouts going back where people could stay, communication trenches, all that kind of stuff. Trench warfare was a nasty, nasty thing. First of all, you sat there. It was basically a stalemate. You didn't move very far. It was muddy, cold, wet, a lot of disease. Worst disease by far was called trench foot. Your feet would get wet and basically start rotting in your shoes. Really bad. There were rats in the trenches. I mean, huge rats we're talking. And you'd basically be taking shots at each other from across this area. And you have a two-front war happening. On the Eastern Front, things don't go very well on the Eastern Front for Russians. Russians get beat back by the Germans pretty quick. But this trench warfare slows down Germany, and you basically have this two-front war happening between in World War I. Now, no man's land is a place between the two trenches. So it's 100 to 300 yards, give or take, where basically just bomb craters and landmines and barbed and razor wire, this kind of stuff here, that you have to try and get across to get the next trench. Your whole goal is to try and take that next trench, and the order is over the top. When you go over the top, you run out of your trench, run across this no man's land, try and dodge all the bullets and those kind of things, artillery, and try to get to that next trench. Literally, we're talking that battles were fought 30 to 40 yards of territory at a time, where you're trying to get across to no man's land. And it was basically darn near impossible to happen. So certain new things come around. First, we see landmines. So bombs are triggered by pressure. You're not seeing this way. You would run across the no man's land, hit that mine, blow up, cause a lot of damage and destruction. Landmines are a new weapon at this time. Machine guns. Machine guns were designed in the United States by Hiram Maxim. And in a trench, you could actually defend an entire trench with 2 machine guns. Because you would run in this big mass push across no man's land. 2 machine guns could just sweep right across and knock down huge people. This is brand new for war. The European countries hadn't seen this before, and it led to huge casualty numbers regarding this trench warfare. At the place called the Battle of Somme in 1915, British soldiers constantly rushed these German trenches, and machine guns mowed down many, many British soldiers. We're talking 500,000 British soldiers were dead or wounded by the end of the whole battle, just because of German machine guns. And so it's a huge way to keep this battle going here. A new weapon too is poison gas. German scientists decided to use different gases, and then later on British scientists used it as well. They used chlorine, which was used in chemicals, in pool chemicals, but it burns the lungs. They also used mustard gas. It actually wasn't a gas; it was a sticky substance that burned your skin. They eventually made gas masks you could use to breathe this stuff out, but at first it was really damaging, more of a psychological weapon because it scared the crap out of you because you couldn't see this stuff. It was odorless. You couldn't see it, and it just started making your eyes burn, those kind of things. Airplanes were new. Airplanes have been around for about 10 years at this point. And at first, they're used to take pictures of the trenches, those kind of things. Later on, these airplanes started taking machine guns up there and started shooting at each other and strafing the ground, those kind of things. Artillery, big guns that would freak people out and destroy the trenches and drop these huge bombs on the trenches. And lastly, eventually, we have the invention of the tank by the end of the war. Basically, a land ship to protect from machine gun bullets and run over the barbed wire to get to the trenches. We'll talk more about this in class later on, guys.